what do you say to those, and there are some out there, I'm sure, who say, well, this is a rich guy's band, he's a dilettante, and he can afford to get in GE or Jack or Pete or some of the other names that have been involved.
Well, you have to ask the people, why would Pete and Barry play with us for 10 years? Mm-hmm. Right? Why would GE play with us for 4? I mean, of course, a person in my economic situation could hire them, but you don't do 110 shows a year with people you don't like. I mean, remember.
And travel to the shows.
That's what I'm saying. We just go on bus, right? Yeah. So, I mean, John's prior gig was Phil and Friends, right? Phil Lesh and Friends. And, you know, I'm sure he could play with Phil anytime he wants. But, you know, I think this is a gig that has some benefits. I mean, we're doing new stuff. You know, it's one thing to be in a really great band like Further, Phil and Friends, or to be, you know, in Paul McCartney's band. But they're locked into a formula, and they don't get to innovate. You have to do certain kinds of things. I mean, obviously Further's got a lot of room that they can play within, but still, you know, you got to play a certain repertoire. We'll never be at that scale, and that's cool. But what we are is we got this audience that really digs it. Why? Because it's a different thing, and there's nothing else like it. And you know, you sit there and you go, what's our music most like? I have no idea. And who cares? It's like music is just part of it. The music's an excuse for a scene. I mean, that's what I always loved about the Dead. You know, I went to literally a couple hundred shows, living in the Northeast, mostly. And, you know, why did I go? I mean, the music really mattered, but there were, obviously, you know this, all these other things that mattered just as much. And there was a community you knew at Dead shows that was separate from your local community, right? People that you would see. You know, Big Steve may have told you the story, you know, when I met Jerry. You know, he looks at me and goes, hey. I looked at him and I went, hey. That was the end of the conversation. And that was, you know, it was about moments. It was about memories. And this is a band where we go to Hanford, California, and there is a misunderstanding. And the people organizing it literally promote it with a wrong date, and the date is after the date we're playing. This could have been a disaster. It must have been 96 degrees. We're setting up for a twilight show. I think it was like a Sunday afternoon. Hanford, of course, is deep in the valley in California, so it's really hot. We're in this thing that looks like the town square in Back to the Future, right in front of City Hall. We're sitting up in these gigantic oak trees. We set up, we start playing, and all of a sudden the eclipse happened. You remember that eclipse? And Glenn and Patrick, our video guys, found a welder's helmet. They put it over one of the cameras, they pointed right at the eclipse. That day, we played live to an annular eclipse. And it is, when you watch the video of that show, there is one camera mixed in constantly of the various states of the eclipse as the afternoon went on. And that thing suddenly, I mean, you know, every band collects Spinal Tap moments. We had an exploding drummer. I mean, it's actually the second one I've had, so I now know what they mean. Because sometimes you get to the gig and the drummer flips out on you. I mean, literally flips out and can't play. And that's now happened to me twice in my career. And so we had that. But, you know, you collect all the Spinal Tap things. But the eclipse was amazing. Because basically it was exactly the time of our sets. We did a 2-set thing. And at halftime of the set, literally the whole crowd went over and borrowed the welder's helmet. So everybody looked at it. You know, so there were probably 100 people there. And they all get the helmet and they all looked at it, which is really cool. Another time we're in Utah to play this really great festival in the, you know, like that Monuments Park or whatever it's called. You know, where they have the rocks that stick up. Well, we're sitting at our hotel about 15 miles away, and we look over to the east. And if you've ever seen the movie The Mummy, the sandstorm, it looks like just a wall of sand, maybe 30, 40 feet high. Well, you can see it several miles away. And it's coming this way. We get the call from the festival that we canceled the rest of the day, and we're quickly disassembling the stage because it's gonna all get sandblasted completely. So nobody got hurt there, and that was like right around the time that the Sugarland thing happened back east. And so we felt like they'd shown really good judgment. But that was the first time any of us, including Big Steve and John and Pete, had ever had a gig canceled due to a sandstorm.
You snuck in, they mentioned an exploding drummer in there somewhere.
Yeah.
When did the drummer explode?
Well, our first drummer just, this is a hard time, and people's lives are complicated. You can't tell people how to live. And every once in a while, people lose perspective. And in this particular case, I don't want to get into the dirty laundry of it, but we're literally at a gig, and he lost his temper at everybody, way loud, so the audience could hear it. And, you just can't have that. I mean, we're in the entertainment business. You cannot bring your laundry. Right? I mean, that's just not right. Yeah. See, we don't have any barriers between us and the audience.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Big Steve, his job was to keep everybody away from Jerry. And in our band, it's to be there and effectively be the customer service person, right? He's the person everybody can talk to, and he kind of, keeps everybody entertained and makes sure that everybody gets their poster signed who wants it signed. Sure. And it's a totally different role, which is part of why I think he has fun with it. And yet, if you're thinking about exploding drummers, we didn't have Big Steve yet when the drummer exploded. Or I guess we did have him, but there was nothing that could be done. Normally Steve would catch that before it, spirals out of control. But, it's just,
Right. You've explained your musical vision pretty much for the various bands you've been with, but and it goes back to the 60s, to that, like Grace and Paul used to say, our thing is there's no line between us and the audience. Well, that was said in the early 70s. Yeah. The posters that you have brought back or have helped bring back, and the artists behind them, that's pretty amazing. A lot of bands have occasional posters. Producers put out posters for special shows. You put out about an average of one poster per show you perform.
Yeah.
What is behind that? I mean, that is...
Well, it's funny. As far back as I can remember, I loved album art. And I particularly loved Grateful Dead album art, Jefferson Airplane album art. And when I was a little kid, and when I first moved to San Francisco in 1976, one of the first things I did was go to, remember the old poster mat that was on Columbus Avenue? This guy named Ben Friedman there, who was, as you remember, he was the guy who really, he had the stash of old posters, and he could teach you. And so I would go by there, and I didn't have any money. But I would go by there 2-3 times a week. And Ben would eventually teach me. And at the beginning he said, look, you don't have any money, so for $10 I'll say a third printing of this thing here. And, I would come home with, this tremendous blue cheer, the one with Quaker Oats guy and all that kind of stuff. And then, so I was a Rick Griffin, and he would teach me about Rick Griffin, and then he taught me about Stanley Mouse and Alton Kelly and Victor Moscoso and Wes Wilson, right? And he said to me, you gotta really respect Wes and Victor because they were the first two. And he said, someday maybe you'll run into him. And well, one thing led to another. So when my band in college, Guff, the one that was the first one, first thing I did, my job, I worked for a magazine selling ads. That's how I paid my way through school. And so I had access to a printer. So we did posters for those gigs. And I would design them. So they'd have a photograph and some nice text. And I'd cop the photograph from someplace, And then just every band I was in, I would make flyers and these other things. And I forget how it happened the first time, but I was helping to put on a Hot Tuna gig. And I got Randy to do a poster. And next thing you know, I realized, these guys are starving. There's not enough work out there. It was enough work when they were 23 and they were sleeping on somebody's couch. But now they got a family and kids in school and all that kind of stuff. This isn't working. So when we started flying Other Brothers, I actively sought out posters, and that's how I met Chris Shaw. Anyway, Chris became a pal. When we started Moonalice, we just decided that posters were going to be part of that legend. It was the simplest way to convey this thing that we were trying to do. And Chris is sitting there, and he's at all the meetings at the beginning, as though he's a member of the band. And I swear to you, we never thought through the implications that we would have a poster for every single gig. And the only time we don't have a new poster is if we play multiple nights in the same venue. But, so if we do 2 or 3 nights at the same festival, we usually just have one poster. But because some nights you have a multiple poster set, we've had 535 posters for like 520 shows. And you look back and go, gee, we never thought about the fact we were eventually going to find our posters. Where are we going to put them all? And so we had to create this system to like put them all on the web and make it possible. So we redesigned the websites, the posters were the front and center thing. And it's like, you're sitting there, and next thing you know, we start with Chris and his wife, Alex, who had never done posters before. She was just going to learn. And maybe Carolyn Ferris and a couple other people, and David Singer is in a coma. He's been there for 8 months, his wife's left him, his whole life's come apart. And David was the guy who did the last 69 Fillmore West posters. Mm-hmm. A friend of ours goes up and introduces me when he's first awake, and he's like just trying to put his life back together. And we had this great conversation, and of course I already had a ton of Singer posters we had for a couple of days. And I said, David, here's the thing, whatever art you'll produce, I will buy. But you need to get back to work. Well, David has now done more posters for Moonalice than he did for Bill Graham. He did 74 for Bill Graham. I think he's done like 79 for us. And he is so proud of that. We all commemorated the day he passed it, right? And, David's now really healthy. He's really happy. He's got, everything's back on track, right? And so I kind of think about this, that if you want to, the great thing about art and music is that a little investment can spread so far, right? Because we let people share all this stuff over the web. And you sit there and you say to yourself, seriously, we could get paid for this, but then it would be this big. By saying, I'm in a position, for now anyway, not to get paid. Well, we get paid when we do gigs and all, but in aggregate, I'm willing to spend more than we earn. But that's because I'll make it back when we figure out how to commercialize the technology, right? I don't need to make it in the music. That's okay, right? You sort of sit here and go, look, why does everybody need to be a dick? I mean, you can actually live by the golden rule, and, if people don't like it, fine. Seriously, there's lots of people who sit there and go, he can't be any good. And I go, look, you can believe whatever you want. You can listen to our music or not. But trust me, if you're the kind of person who's going to draw that kind of conclusion without hearing it, you probably aren't going to like us. Yeah. And that's cool. And thank goodness you figured that out without having to waste the time. You can listen to a show. You can watch a show. You can look at a million posters and decide. That's the great thing. There's no risk in going to a Moonalice show. Everybody who goes, it's amazing. You'll go into a con you've never been in before. You'll play an original song, and there are people in the audience singing along. What band of people at our age playing brand new music can pull that off? Mm-hmm. Is it a huge audience? No way. Yeah. But that's just fine. As far as I'm concerned, if I knew everybody by name, that would be great.
Well, it has to be said, though, that these artists were great in the 60s. They did tremendous work, but you're treating them so differently. And some of these same artists, amazingly enough, like Singer and Wes and Mouse, in that when they were doing their work, they were commissioned, they were paid a flat fee, and adios. And so later reprints and resales and book appearances and use in movies.
Autographs.
Sorry, dude. It's all our money. You are doing it the opposite way.
Yeah, again, my thought was, look, America's really in a lot of trouble in many ways. And I tried for a long time to influence it in whatever way I could. And it doesn't really work. At least it didn't for me. I don't have the right personality. But poster art, now that's at a scale where we can do something about it. And I look at it as I said to all the artists, and I've said this to Stanley Mouse, I've said it to Wes Wilson, I've said it to Carolyn Ferris and Dennis Larkins and Gary Houston. I said, listen, the way the old thing worked didn't make any sense. I would like a role a little bit like Richard Stein or somebody like that, where you're basically saying, look, I'm going to pay you according to how good this is. And you're going to be the judge. Like some of the stuff Stanley's done for us, you look at that one up there from last night, the one with the angel, the pixie angel on there. That is a huge painting. It is one of the greatest things he has ever done. And as a consequence, he got one of his best commissions for that, right? And that's how it works for everybody. I look at them and I go, look guys, when you think you need to get paid more, but you gotta keep raising your game. And so if you look at the series as it passes through time, and each new person comes in, you know, it's, when Wendy Wright came in, she brought a unique style, you know? I mean, Lee Conklin and John Mavroudis, Dennis Larkins, these people, Alex Fisher, these people just have so much talent. And, you know, the thing to me is, it's like, none of this was a plan. You start in a good idea, and if it works, you just keep feeding it. And, you know, we've now put out 3 books of poster art. The 4th one's at the printer now. We're about to start writing the 5th one, because we do about 100 of them at a time. And we are beginning a print shop for the posters so they can do more hand screen like this one here, you know, Chuck Sperry. I mean, you know, you just can't, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't cost that much money to create beautiful art. So I kind of view it like the way that Roosevelt during the New Deal with things like the Civilian Conservation Corps or the WPA, where, look, if you're going to build buildings, you might as well make them beautiful, right? And I'm sitting here going, is the world better off that Wes Wilson is doing posters again? Isn't it cool that Stanley did airbrush art again? I mean, after not doing it for like at least a decade.
You're also giving them gallery space for like a rolling gallery, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Well, we bring this thing we call the poster trees, right? And we have this thing where we can put up the entire series of 500, whatever it is, 35 or 40 posters, on these interlocking trees with doorways, and they're posters that are set up so people can take their picture in the poster and have a poster themselves. And, you know, so we can bring that with us when we want to. So when we play these town parks, we always set up the posters. But we also do poster shows. We're going to have one at the Brooklyn Bowl in New York City on October 28th. And that's 2012 for those of you who are in the future tense.
Hard stop in 10 minutes, guys, just so you know.
The what?
Hard stop in 10 minutes.
So we have poster shows. We're going to have one at the Brooklyn Bowl, which will be our second one there. I believe 17 or 18 artists will be coming. And, you know, there's this huge series created. And what I love is every time we do a poster show, they all look at the stuff everybody else has done. They all go, wow. And then they come back with this amazing stuff the next round. And so we're trying to do like a poster show in the spring and fall every year. And see how it goes, because art's just a good thing. And I think poster art's really cool, because it gives you so much room.
Hard stop?
Yeah, Roger has to be in his office at 5, so.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, fine. You know, I've got so much material, I think, about the fans and about songs and about overall.
So I think we'll do a little bit on the video.
Yeah, Paula, you want to say something?
And just one other, I would like something about the songwriting process for you, Roger, and also if you would like to, maybe something about working with Anne.
Yep. But she's not going to come down.
Right,
Okay.
I understand.
And we're doing this forward looking.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
cool.
But maybe in the songwriting part,
Sure,
really
okay.
write together.
In the studio and in the rehearsals, what is the creative process like when you or Anne or others have brought in songs?
Well, it's fun. Last year we put out 6 EPs with 5 songs each. So we did 30 recordings in a calendar year and put them out 1 EP a month for 6 months. And we're about to put out 2 more. So we view the act of recording now as not an effort to produce the definitive version of something, but in fact an opportunity to produce a definitive version that will be the launching point for the live. And so the notion is we're always bringing in new songs. I mean, today our set list is 2/3 songs we didn't play a year ago. And we're doing that all the time. And one of the to bring the old ones that people like through often enough to keep everybody pleased. But people like the new stuff all the time. And it's energizing to be in a band where everybody can write. And so within the band, Pete, Anne, and I historically have been the primary songwriters, but Barry's brought in his own stuff too. But always the songs get arranged as a group. And often they get written as a group. And so I'm blessed. My wife, Anne, we've been married 29 years, and of course she's just left full-time activity in the band and musical theater. But Anne's a PhD in music theory from Yale. She was a professor of music theory. And really, if you were in my situation and trying to make up for lost time, there's nothing like being married to a really great professor of something to learn that topic well.
Who also sings very well, by the way.
Thank
Lovely
you.
voice.
I love her in every dimension. But in this context, her ability to provide a bridge, to create harmony parts that really work. Because in our band, we work really hard on dynamics. We try really hard not to be a loud band, but there's huge dynamic range. And if we're playing a song like when Pete sings Stella Blue, old Jerry Garcia song, you can literally hear a pin drop, and then it comes back up, and we do that many times within the show. And that, if you will, is the product of not just the musicianship of the people in the band, but if you will, also I think a lot of thought to arranging, which we do as a group. And to me, I'll tell you, I look back 10 years and, I feel sorry for the people who came to see me back then because, I didn't play well enough. I obviously played well enough, but I get better all the time. And to me, that's the thing I love about music. If I play 2 hours every single day as I do, I just keep getting better. And if we play 110 shows a year, I just keep getting better. And when you're playing with John Molo, you also become a better singer. If you're playing with Barry Slush, you write better songs because, that guitar part. And then Pete just, so I would say, if you will, I am living a dream, and I totally get it. And people can think what they will about how this came together, but just imagine that I grew up worshiping, not just the Grateful Dead, but the band and Hot Tuna, and that when I had the chance to first meet Yorma, and we started the Flying Other Brothers, we started a band camp with Yorma, and he brought Yorma brought Jack, Pete, and GE to the first band camp that we had. And then we did 3 of those back in the late 90s, when he was first starting his guitar camp. And that experience, that's how we met all those people. That's how we became close. This developed over a really long period of time. And, this isn't a bad gig. You look at this and you go, oh, I get it. So we're not going to be playing arenas, but we're going to reinvent live video. We're going to be the coolest poster thing known. We've got the most rabid fan base you ever saw, which is so cool because it's a lot of people our age. Right? And they're not rabid like teenagers, they're rabid like adults, which is to say they really like what we do and they participate actively. And, they bring cool things, they share their artistic things, whatever it is, even if their artistic thing is dancing or just smiling. And, and then you write a song called It's 420 Somewhere, and suddenly you become at the center of, a small but, in our mind, important social movement in America. And, that has introduced us to lots of really interesting people.
Let's dissect that one song. 420 is one of your better known songs.
Yeah.
Who came up with that phrase or title?
So an anonymous friend came up with the title and worked with Anne and GE to write the song. Okay, so it was a 3-part thing. And I get a credit at the end for the person who came in and added a little realism to it. So it was that was a complete collaborative effort, and it was one of those things where initially it wasn't meant to be a song that was recorded by us. It was something that they joked about, right? Because you go on a band bus, you expect all these rowdy people. Our band bus is full of people who are on their computers or watching baseball, GE used to joke that we were the weakest excuse for a band bus he ever saw because, there are no drinkers and no abusers and everybody's already kind of at peace with their life and, and so it's like, all the things. This bus, we just had to give up a bus that we got because Kid Rock rejected it. It was brand new. It had a stripper pole in it. It had this thing at the back that could suck all the air out of the room in like a nanosecond in case the cops came. So we had this bus for about, 6-7 months. And the bus company gets a call from Justin Bieber. I kid you not. Justin wants our bus. So they're going to cut it again, the same way we did when Kid Rock decides he doesn't want it, right? Because then they have nobody to use it. So they literally gave it to us. So now we get this new bus, perfectly fine, but it doesn't have a stripper pole or the, get drugs out quickly feature, which apparently, I guess, mattered to Mr. Bieber. But, you talk about Spinal Tap moments, right? You get your bus because it's not good enough for Kid Rock, but it's perfect for Justin Bieber.
Can you ask one question? Can you ask Roger what guitars he plays and works with?
Oh, sure. You go ahead.
Yeah.
What axis do you play?
So my acoustic guitar is a Martin 0028, which was actually made by our local guitar store, commissioned by our local guitar store, Griffin, here in Palo Alto, because they wrote the history of Martin and with the Martin people, and they discovered a guitar that Martin had lost track of, the original 14 fret, 1929 guitar, and this is a replica of that, and I love it. Wide neck, little body, just sounds angelic. The electric guitars I use on stage are Gretsch. And I have a 6120 that's about 50 years old, and it's got the Gretsch sound that you love to have. And then I have a Irish Falcon that Bono gave me that's also made by Gretsch. And but over the years, I've used a lot of things. I have an old Gibson ES330, which is a really lightweight guitar. I have to use lightweight guitars because I don't have to strum it back. And I play it through for the guitar lovers and amp lovers out there, I have a 55 Fender Basement amp that, it's really it's all original parts, but total Frankenstein. None of them are the parts that came with it except for the cones, and which have been redone. But that thing, I bought it on eBay. It had been sitting in 3 inches of water in Florida for a couple of years. And it literally took us a year to get the mildew out of it.
Roger shops on eBay.
Oh, for sure. Oh, dude. I'm not like you think. I don't know how to ever tell people this, but the thing to remember is when Ann and I got married, our goal was to have a cooking pot with a lid. We got it in the 3rd year we were married, okay? We got married with nothing but debt and no upside. We had good jobs, we had good educations, but we had to make all of it happen. We were so lucky. And there's no account for that. At the end of the day, I'm trying to point that good luck in a way that I can share it with the largest number of people. So for 2 years, I've been open sourcing my investment work so that everyone can see what I see as I see it. Every couple of weeks, I post a new version of what I think is going on. And it's because, if you live in a world dominated by Wall Street, frankly, there's right now no defense. And one of the few things I can do is point out what's going on and try to, in my own little way, counteract it by saying, hey guys, here's what's going on in tech, at least what I think. And this is what I really think, this is what I'm doing with it. Judge and do with it what you will. And, in the end, if enough people get together and do this stuff together, maybe we can change the value system a little bit. But if we don't,
But you don't put political views into your songs.
Well, I think I'm not right and left. We put right and wrong into our songs all over the place. We have Tell Me It's Okay, which was, written the last time the world melted down. We had, last night we played a song, it's an old Fob song called Devil's Kitchen that I wrote about the Patriot Act, which I just thought was the most egregious. We have one called American Dream Rag, which is about the banks stealing the economy. It's weird. You say to yourself, whoa, you're writing songs about that. Well, I actually know a lot about that. And if you can write a song that's both fun and funny, but also, the punchline of American Dream Rag is, it looks like we've all been screwed.